Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So as you can tell from the title, this is actually going to be kind of a combo of two things. The first thing is going to be my TBR for February, and then the second thing is going to be what I want to be reading throughout the year of 2020. I set my Goodreads goal at 50 books, so hopefully I can do that. That was one of my New Year's resolutions and goals this year, is to read more, because I get into reading slumps where I don't read for months and it's really bad. So hopefully this year I can break out of that habit and just read all year. So I forgot to actually do a TBR for 2020, so I'm just going to add it into this video. The first thing that we're going to be doing is looking at the books that I want to be reading in February, and then we'll move on to the books that I want to be reading throughout the year. So the first book that I want to be reading in February is Siege and Storm. This is the second book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and it follows Elena. She has escaped the Darkling and now she's on the run, and she's actually trying to save her city and her world that the Darkling wants to destroy. I just recently finished the first book. I liked it just fine. Hopefully I can get a review of it out soon. Obviously I liked it well enough to pick up the second book in the trilogy, and hopefully I can finish this month and then move on to the third and finish that this month. The next book that I want to be reading in February is called Ruin and Rising. It's by Leigh Bardugo too. I haven't really looked at the plot synopsis on it because I don't want to spoil anything for the second book just in case, so I'm kind of going into that one blind, but it is the third and final book in the trilogy of Shadow and Bone, so I can't wait to complete that, and then hopefully I can move on to some of her other books like Six of Crows. I've heard really good reviews about that book and I just want to read it, but I think the best thing for me to do is to do the Shadow and Bone trilogy and then jump over to Six of Crows. The third book that I want to be reading in February is called Hide and Seek. It is by M.J. Arledge. This is actually the sixth book in the Detective Helen Grace series. I've read the previous 5 and then I picked up this one, and I don't know why, but I just kind of stopped partway through it. Without giving anything away from the other books, this book is essentially a murderer is on the loose in a jail, and whoever starts killing people, and it's up to Detective Helen Grace to find the person before they get too big of a body count. Honestly, M.J. Arledge's Detective Helen Grace series is one of my favorite series ever. I gave Pop Goes the Weasel, which is the second book, 5 stars. I absolutely love it. I love his writing. I love the characters. I love everything about it. And I don't know why I put this one down, but I can't wait to continue to read the series, and hopefully I can finish it. The next book on my list is Love Me Not by M.J. Arledge. This is the 7th book in the Detective Helen Grace series. Again, I haven't read too much of a synopsis because, if we're kind of being honest, his synopsises kind of spoil other things, and I didn't want that to happen, so I'm going to be going into that one relatively blind as well. And then the next book that I want to be reading is Into the Woods by M.J. Arledge. That is the 8th, and if I'm not mistaken, final book in the Detective Helen Grace series. Again, I didn't read the synopsis because I don't want to spoil anything, because I love the book so much, and I just want to go in there with an open mind. The next book is Library of Souls by Ransom Riggs. This is the 3rd book in the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I've read the other 2. I loved Miss Peregrine. I believe I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads too. And then I read the second one, and then when this one came out, at the time when I finished the second one, it was only in hardback, and I wanted my books to match and all be paperback. So I waited, and I think I waited a bit too long, because when I finally did get it in paperback, I didn't read it. I haven't even started this book, which is really a shame because I really loved his writing style and the characters he had set up. So this book is about a boy named Jacob who is trying to rescue his friends from a fortress or jail or whatever that they're kept in, and he teams up with some other superpowered kids to try and free them. And if you don't know anything about this world, some kids in here have special abilities. Some can control air, others have mouths in the back of the head, some can even control fire. It's just a really fun world and I love it. The next book is Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. This book is it mainly focuses around an angel and a demon. They both live on Earth. They both love it extremely. The only problem is the Antichrist is supposed to come and destroy Earth, but he gets misplaced in the delivery process. So it's up to them to try and stop the Antichrist before he can destroy the world that they live in, but they also have to team up. And they're already friends, but you still have that angel-demon kind of combo that I like. Again, this is another book that I started and I just kind of stopped in the middle of it for some unknown reason. I liked it just fine. It actually became a TV series relatively recently, so I'll have to pick this up again. The next book is Emperor of Thorns. This is the third and final book in the Broken Empire, trilogy, and it's written by Mark Lawrence. Without giving anything away, this follows a guy called Jorg, and he wants to get revenge on his father. Throughout the previous 2 books, that's all he's been trying to do, but he just hasn't really been able to accomplish that yet. And he also wants to become emperor, which to my understanding is the top power that you can get in this world. This is a fantasy book, so I believe in the first 2 there were great creatures in it. I even think that there was a necromancer at one point. But yet again, this is a book that I started and I just never finished. And I don't know why. I've had it for a really long time, which has given me enough time to finish it. I've just kind of pushed it to the side and I don't know, left it there, and I don't know why, because I like the series fine. I think the first book in this, it was called Prince of Thorns, actually got me back into reading, so I have no idea why I stopped this, but hopefully I can finish it this year and therefore finish the series. The next book is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It's written by J.K. Rowling. Yes, I know, I'm like the one person on this earth that hasn't read a single Harry Potter book. I don't know, I just kind of feared it because it was so hyped up and I didn't want to be let down or anything, but my friends finally persuaded me into buying and reading the book. You guys all know the story. Harry Potter gets whisked away to this wizard world. He has to learn magic and all this, and eventually he's preparing to fight Voldemort, which is the, antagonist of the story. I've started it and haven't finished it yet again. Yeah, I know I do this a lot, but I don't know. It was written just fine. Nothing really bugged me except for a few tropes here or there. And yes, I do understand that this book is what made those tropes popular, but they've been so overused that by now I'm just I don't like them. But for this, I am willing to give it a chance, so I might jump back into it. I don't know if I'll continue with the series. Maybe once I finish this, I find that I love it. Maybe I don't and I won't finish it, but that's fine. The next book on my list is called A Darker Shade of Magic. It's by V.E. Schwab, and I'm actually surprised at myself that I haven't read this because the reviews on it have been really good. Some people say it's the best fantasy book they've ever read, and I love fantasy. I don't know, I've been looking at it for years just on the bookshelf. I'm like, oh, I'll buy it next time, and then next time never comes. So hopefully soon I can buy it. I'll probably get it from Book Outlet because it is cheaper there, but who knows, I might actually just pick it up from the store. So basically the book is about a person named Kel, and he can transport or jump from one realm to another, different shades of London. One is gray, I believe there's another red one, and I think there's even a black one that's dead. And so basically when he goes to the gray one, something goes really wrong and that London begins to get destroyed. So he has to try and fix it, but he can't let himself be known about his power or anything like that. The next book is The Wicked King. This is the second book in the Folk of the Air. The first book was The Cruel Prince. I read that quite a while ago. I wasn't blown away by it, by like some people were, but it also didn't really disappoint me, if that makes sense. It wasn't my favorite, but it was probably my fault from getting my expectations so high because the book was hyped so much. So I went into it thinking this is going to be a masterpiece, and I probably shouldn't have done that. So without spoiling anything, in case you haven't read The Cruel Prince, basically Jude is trying to secure her place on this magical court. But Cardan the King now tries to stop her every move that she makes or anything like that. And I will say this, in the first book, that was actually the one dynamic that I really, really loved was Cardan. Cardan was by far my favorite character. I loved how he was written and everything like that. The family drama that went on there, I loved it. I wish he was in The Cruel Prince just a bit more, and hopefully he's in The Wicked King more, so then that will make me happy. So yeah, my expectations are not high for this book, but they're also not low. It's kind of in the middle. I kind of hope it's better than the first book. The ratings tell me that it is better than the first book, so we'll just have to wait and see. And then the next book is The Queen of Nothing. This is the third book in the Folk of the Air trilogy. I'm not going to read a synopsis because I don't want to spoil anything for myself. In case you can't tell, I'm very careful about spoilers and stuff like that. I hate them so much. But yeah, this book has gotten better reviews than The Wicked King. So I've heard it's really good. Everyone's really excited to read it. I want to read it, but first I have to finish the second book, so hopefully when I do that, then I can finish up that series, and hopefully we get more of Jude and Cardan in there, because I absolutely love the love-hate relationship that they have for one another. The next book is Red Rising. This is book 1 in the Red Rising saga, and it is written by Pierce Brown. I've heard really good reviews for this book too, and again, this is another book that I've picked up countless times in my bookstore. I just haven't purchased it for whatever reason. I don't know why, but essentially in this world there's a class system based on color. So Duro is a red, and then you have others who are higher colors. He's the lowest of the colors, and they actually live on Mars, and they're trying to make it more inhabitable for themselves and everyone else. But then Duro just decides that he doesn't like it anymore, and he's going to start an uprising and try to bring down this society. So it's kind of like a dystopian novel. I guess it is a fantasy dystopian novel, if that is a thing. It sounds kind of like Divergent or Hunger Games almost, but it still intrigues me, so hopefully I can read that as well as the other books. The next book is Six of Crows, again by Leah Bardugo. This is book 1 in the duology. I've heard so many good things from this book. It's unbelievable. Almost everyone that I've watched on BookTube has given this book 5 stars. And I really want to read it, but first I have to finish the Bone and Shadow trilogy, and then I'll jump onto this one. So hopefully the faster I finish those, then I can go to this one, and then I will be wanting to read the second one as well. So basically the book follows 6 people. They are trying to pull off the heist essentially of the century for them. And he has to team up with these people that he doesn't know, and they have to go on this heist together. And they might be the only people who can stop an evil from destroying their world. So yeah, this is really on my top TBR list. And hopefully I love it. I really want to love it so much. And so far, I love Leigh Bardugo's writing. It's very simplistic. It's not overcomplicated. The worlds that she manages to build are just amazing. And yeah, I'm just excited. The next book I want to be reading is called Frostblood. It is the first book in the Frostblood saga. It's written by Ellie Blake, and it follows a young girl named Ruby who is a fireblood, so basically she can summon fire, but she's had to conceal her powers because the main power, the Frostbloods, are in control and they don't like Firebloods or anything like that. So she joins a group of rebels. She gets captured and she's forced to compete in these tournaments without her life and death, and she has to use her powers and her skills to try to come out on top. This book, I've never really been, oh, this is the one. I've picked it up and I've read the first few pages of it and be like, oh yeah, I like this, but I'm gonna get this book first. So yeah, hopefully I can get to books like this as well, where I'm not overly excited to read them, but I want to read them as well. It sounds good. Hopefully it is, and if I like that, then I'll continue with the series and I'll read the other books in it. The next book that I want to read is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. Sorry, I know I totally just butchered that name and I apologize for that, but it is the first book in the Raven cycle. I think it's a trilogy, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, just let me know in the comments below. But so basically, all her life, Blue has been warned about these Raven Boys that go to this particular school to stay away from them. But one day, her and some other boys meet, and she actually begins to catch feelings for a boy named Gansey. But the only problem is that it was prophesized that she would end up killing her true love. So she doesn't want to get close to him, but they're compelled to one another. I've heard really good things about this book. A lot of people, just like Six of Crows, have given this 5 stars consistently. So I've never really picked this one up in the store, and I don't know why. But now all I want to do is kind of read it. So hopefully I'll get to it sometime this year. I should be able to. I just don't know when that will happen. Hopefully in the next month or so. I really want to read it, and then if I like it, I want to read the other ones. I've heard that those are kind of a hit or miss type of situation. Some people love them, other people hate them. Some people say, oh no, this book is the best. Wow, this one sucks, you can skip it. And then other people just flip-flop. So I have no idea what's gonna happen for me in terms of reading the rest of the series, but I do know that everyone can agree that The Raven Boys is a really good book. The next book that I want to be reading is Onyx and Ivory, Mindy Arnett. This is book 1 in the Rhyme Chronicles. So basically it follows a girl named Kate who has to, I believe it's deliver messages to people. The only problem is the kingdom at night is infested by these things called drakes, which are creatures that will kill you if they catch you. And then she also has to deal with the king's son, Corin. Problem here is that the drakes are coming out more in the day and they're wreaking havoc on the kingdom, so Kate and Corin actually have to team up, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe they do have that feuding relationship that I actually like, kind of, not gonna lie. So hopefully they have that throughout the book, and it just sounds really good. I've heard some pretty good things about it, so it'll be interesting to see how they come together to try and save the kingdom from these monsters. The next book is The Ash Princess by Laura Sebastian. This is book 1 in the Ash Princess trilogy. It follows a young girl whose kingdom was taken over when she was young and she was imprisoned. She was given the disgraceful title of the Ash Princess, and now she has to rise up and revolt against this king before her kingdom is ultimately destroyed. And I read the synopsis to it, and it actually sounds like this character has a lot of wit, and hopefully that comes into play, because I love characters who can think fast on their feet and they analyze everything. I like seeing that inside process, almost like Sherlock Holmes, the TV show, where he's analyzing everything. I don't know why, but I love that. So hopefully there are a few scenes in there that can give that to me. I would really love to see a character like that. I haven't seen one in a while, so. The next book I want to read is Vicious. This one is by V.E. Schwab, the person who did A Darker Shade of Magic. I saw this recently on the bookshelves, and it really intrigued me. The cover is so beautiful, and I believe this is book 1 in the Villains trilogy. I personally love a good guy who's actually a bad guy. I love anti-heroes, and I love it when the protagonist is slightly gray. You don't really know which side they lean on. I love that so much, and this book sounds exactly like that. It's about Victor and Eli. They are once best friends, and then something happens and then they turn enemies, and Eli actually ends up in jail, and he swears revenge on Victor once he gets out. And it's basically a race against the clock to see who can win and survive the longest. It's kind of described of like comic book almost type deal here. I don't know how I like that style. I haven't really read a lot of books in that style, so this one is kind of an iffy for me with that premise. But it does say that not all, superpowers lead to being the hero, and hopefully we get that really morally gray character that you want to hate but also root for. The next book is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It's book 1. I think it's a trilogy. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me. And it's by Stieg Larsson. So basically, this really wealthy person goes missing, and a journalist is hired to help find him, and he brings along his sidekick, I guess. This girl has tattoos and piercings all over her, and together they begin to uncover corruption that's going on, as well as that. This book was actually recommended to me by my boyfriend, and he doesn't read anything at all. Once he told me that he loved this book, I knew I had to read it, because honestly, if he likes a book, then that means it's a good book, because he doesn't like books. So I actually love murder / suspense / thrillers, and this kind of sounds like it's up there. I've heard really good reviews about this book, and I really want to get to reading it soon, but that might be after I go through like my fantasy binge. I don't know, I might throw some things in there as well, like I'm doing this month with the MJ Arledge books, but we'll just have to wait and see what I'm in the mood for. The next book is Sharp Objects. It's by Gillian Flynn. This book follows a reporter who was released from a mental hospital, and she goes back to a town where a string of murders have been happening to young girls, and she actually finds herself kind of relating to them in a way, and because of this, she has to try to unravel, her own psychological puzzle that she has related to her past if she wants to solve this case. So I actually love books like this that dive deep into the mind. I love psychology, like, with a passion. I love TV shows and stuff that delve into like serial killers' minds, and you get to see what they're thinking or anything like that, like Criminal Minds. I love so much. So hopefully we get some of that, where it's a bunch of twists and turns and messed up stuff. I've heard this book is kind of gruesome, but if we're being honest, I'm slightly okay with that. It's just part of the persona that the book brings in. Hopefully this is more of a slow type of story that really kind of takes its time. I don't believe it's too long. I think the last time I picked it up, I remember it being kind of short. So I don't know how much, they can do with that, but I have heard good things about it. The next book is The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. This is book 1 in the Chaos Walking. So in this town, everyone can read everyone's minds, including dogs and other things like that. They all know what they're thinking at all times. You can't hide anything. But one time, Todd, the protagonist, learns something and he's forced to flee. The only problem is, how long can you stay hidden with not even your own thoughts are safe with you? And I actually really like that premise of not having really any privacy, and hopefully this book finds really creative ways to hide the secret and keep it down. So that'd be really nice. I've heard some pretty good things for this book. And again, this is another one that I've passed on the bookshelf several times, telling myself that I'll buy it, but I never do, and I don't know why, which is kind of upsetting, but hopefully I can get to it. I don't know when, though. It's not on my top list to read right now, so it might be a few months from now, but hopefully not. We'll just have to wait and see there, because I have no idea until I do the month by month to be read what books I will actually be reading. So I guess it kind of comes down to what I'm in the mood for at that time, or the month or week, whatever. So who knows? The next book I want to be reading is The Tenant by Katrin Engberg. This is book 1 in the Whir series. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but to my knowledge, this book was actually written in Swedish, and it's been translated into English. This book is a mystery. A young lady is murdered in her own apartment, and all the fingers begin to point to the landlady. But as the cops dig deeper into the story, they actually find out that the landlady's role in this is more twisted than it seems. My one concern for this book is that it is a translated book, and I have read 1 or 2 translated books from school, like mythology and stuff like that, and there are sometimes that it's very confusing because the languages just don't really cross over. I've read a few reviews that say that some of the writing was weird because it was translated. So that's the one thing that I'm kind of concerned about, is that it doesn't really translate into English that well. So yeah, I'll give it a try, but hopefully the writing isn't too awkward or hard to understand. The next book is The Girl in the Ice by Robert Brunstad. I probably just butchered that, and I apologize. This is book 1 out of 6 in the Detective Erica Foster series. So a young girl's body is found in the ice, and Detective Erica is called in to look at it, but the closer she gets to uncovering the case and what actually happened, the closer the killer gets to killing her as well. The main thing that really got my attention for this book was the cover. I absolutely love it. I don't like the sequels, their covers, as much. This one is really pretty though, and I really like it, and I love a good murder mystery that has a female detective in it. I don't know why, but the same thing happens in the Helen Grace series. The main protagonist is a female, and she is the detective. Again, I love a good murder mystery. I really want to be reading this one. Again, I don't know if I'll continue with the others. I might not. We'll just have to play it by ear. The next book on my list is Then She Was Gone by Lisa Joel. This story follows a mother whose daughter disappeared years ago, and she's still trying to cope with the fact, but when she actually goes over to someone's house, she sees that the girl with the man there is almost identical to her daughter. So she opens back up the case of how her daughter disappeared and begins to uncover things. I don't know why, but I like this. It's not often that you see a non-detective in these type of books. Like, this is just a mother trying to find her daughter. I like it. I have kind of peeked inside the book, and the chapters are really short. I really like that. It makes me kind of read faster. I don't particularly like long chapters. That's what MJ Arledge does with all his books. The chapters are a page or 2, and it's really nice, and I can just speed through it. And besides, look at that cover. Like, it's so pretty. That's the main thing that caught my eye at first. The next book is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. This is the first book in a duology, currently a duology of the One of Us is Lying series. So basically 5 students go into detention and only 4 come out. No one really is speaking up saying who did it, and they are trying to find out if one did it or they all did it, or why did this happen. I will say, just from reading the synopsis, that this book kind of does seem like the characters are the cliche high school people. You got the brain, the bronze, the beauty. That's the one thing that kind of throws me off for this book. I don't really like it when characters are stereotypes, because I know exactly how they're going to act like, or say, or do, or anything like that. I will give this book the benefit of the doubt and just hope that, they break out of those stereotypes, but I don't know, my fingers are crossed, and I hope that that happens. My hopes are high that that does happen. If it doesn't, I'm going to be disappointed, but I have heard really good things about this book, so it's worth a shot. The next book on the list is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, written by Holly Jackson. Despite this book recently coming out, I think the author has plans for a sequel, because it is telling me that this is book 1 in a series. So in this book, a senior is killed. No one really knows how. The case goes unsolved for years, I believe, and then this girl Pip decides to re-examine the case, but as she does, she alerts the killer that she's doing so the killer begins to hunt her, and it's a race against time to try to find out who it is before they take her life as well. This book really, really grabs my attention. I think it came out this month, and I am psyched to read it. Someone mentioned it, I don't know who it was, this book, and I saw it, and I read the synopsis, really got invested into it. I saw it the other day in the bookstore, and I nearly jumped up and down because I forgot that it was coming out. But I really want to read it. It sounds really good right now. The reviews are super good on it. Like, everyone seems to love it. I think it's sitting at a 4.5 stars right now, which is really, really, really good. The next book is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I'm so sorry. I'm terrible with names. It's bad. But the premise of this book is that a girl named Alicia one day murders her husband out of nowhere, and all the art that she's made begins to really just take off because of all the press that she's getting. The catch is, though, that directly after she murdered her husband, she refuses to speak to anyone, and they try to uncover why she did it, motives or anything like that, and she just won't say anything. Again, I think this book came out recently. I saw it in the bookstore, and I got super excited for it as well. I can't wait to read it. I've listened to some of the audiobook, just the little preview that they give you, and it was really fascinating. I really like the writing style. So I think that's going to be one of the books that I'm reading more recently as opposed to waiting for it. The next book is The Last Sister by Kendra Elliott. This is book 1 in the Columbia River series. So basically, this book involves 3 sisters. Their dad was found hanging in the backyard, and I believe the wife had been shot. People don't know if it was a murder-suicide or if the children had anything to do with it. From what I can tell from the synopsis, one sister completely goes off the grid and just kind of disappears while the other 2 kind of stick around. But then events start happening that cause all of them to meet back up again, and the secrets of the town and their family begin to slowly rise to the surface. This book I haven't really seen in any bookstores. I believe it was on the Goodreads Most Read this week or something like that. It really intrigued me, the plot of it, and if you haven't caught on by now, my main genres that I love reading are fantasy and mystery, and this one just interested me as well. The reviews for it are really good. I don't know when I'll get to reading this. It's not on my top, but it's definitely not down there. Hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months I can get to it and finish it. The next book is You by Caroline Kepnes. This is book 1, and right now it's a duology, I believe. But the main thing that really got me wanting to read this book was the Netflix show. I love the Netflix show with a passion. I love season 1 and I love season 2 as well, and they recently just renewed the 3rd season. I can't wait to watch that as well. To my knowledge, this book is written in second person, like Joe is talking to the reader when he's actually talking about another girl. But if you don't know, if you haven't watched the show yet, things begin to go south because he turns out to be a stalker and very controlling at that. So he begins to try and eliminate problems in Beck's life. Those include people, family, friends, whatever you name it. He just wants her to be happy. Now, I don't know how much I'm gonna like this because it has already been spoiled for me because of the TV show, but I'm hopeful because I watched 13 Reasons Why first as well, and then I read the book and I actually found out that I love the book as well. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, so hopefully the same thing happens here. But I've heard mixed reviews. With this book, you either tend to love the book or you tend to hate the book. There seems to be a divine split, and there seems to be no middle ground. So I'm kind of expecting it to be the same for me, to either be one or the other. Hopefully it's not hate, because I would hate for that to ruin the TV show for me. But then again, I've never really read a book in second person, so I don't know how much I'm gonna like that. I read like a page or two and I found it just fine, but I don't know if I can survive an entire novel with the character speaking to me. But at the same time, that's part of the lore to this book. From what I've read, it does an effective job at really creeping you out, and that's exactly what I wanted from it, just like the TV show. The next book is The Similars by Rebecca Hanover. This is book 1 in what is currently the Similars duology. So basically, 6 new students show up at their school. The only problem is they are exactly identical to 6 other students, and one of the students that was copied happens to be Emma's friend who actually died. So as she gets pulled closer to them, she begins to grow feelings for Oliver, but she doesn't want to, because secrets begin to uncover themselves in both her school and in the Similars and how they were made and stuff like that. The premise of this book is really interesting. This is one of the only books on my list that isn't really a murder mystery. I guess it could be classified as more of a sci-fi than anything. So this might become a breath of fresh air from all the fantasy and murder mysteries that I'll be reading. This one seems like it has a lot of potential. The plot really interests me, and hopefully one of my only books that isn't fantasy or mystery I end up loving, because that'd be nice. So yeah, that was my to be read for February and 2020. I hope you like it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and follow all my social media accounts down below. Thanks. Bye.